faith is an exercise of the understanding. Some folks, and this is fairly common actually in Trinitarian dogma and Trinitarian thought and Trinitarian apologetics in the defense of the faith, that reason can only take us so far. And it's a proud person who thinks they can completely understand God. And I would agree with that statement. How can you possibly completely understand God? But if we're going to make statements about God, then those have to be based in reason. But an oddity has occurred. I'll call it an oddity has occurred in religious searches, perhaps because the subjects of those searches are invisible. Like God is invisible. Or it's so expansive, the whole concept of who is God, where did the universe come from, that we kind of like, I may need to rely on some other something to make sense of all this. I can't be limited to my earthbound rationale. But the truth is, that's what we've got. That is what we've got, is our earthbound rationale based on the years that we have on this planet individually to make sense of things. So abandoning what we're familiar with, which is the use of reason. If I want a four-door vehicle, I don't go to a motorcycle shop. I go to a place that has those. That's just simple reason, logic, common sense. These all revolve around a similar principle. But like the universe, okay, the sun is 93 million miles away. We're used to it. It's there all the time, right? The nearest star beyond that is 25 trillion miles away, 4.5 light years away. These are things that just people have wondered, philosophers, theologians, atheists, everybody's just wondered about, like, holy smokes, this place is huge. How do I understand it? And yet we're bound to Earth. So we have to still use our reasoning abilities to make sense of things. And we'll see that even in the Bible, it's replete with examples of use your minds to understand me or to understand God. One of the things to understand, and this is an important one, what do you think, before I say what I'm going to say, what do you think the basic undergirding foundational principle or law, if you want to call it that, in communication between people is? What is the basic idea undergirding all communication? All right? It's the law of contradiction. The law of contradiction says that something can't both be and not be at the same time. And for example, if I say to you, I'm talking right now, and I'm not talking right now, you just look and say, well, are you talking or not? Or now, to use God as an example, so to speak, if I'm talking with somebody and I say, God created the heavens and the earth, and God didn't create the heavens and the earth, you'd like recoil. You'd be like, what? You can't say both things. They can't both be true. So we all instinctively know that there is a certain basic in logic or in reason undergirding all of our thoughts. That's the primary one, because without that, you could say anything, vary it, and there would be no concept conceivably of what we might consider truth. And this bears on the Trinitarian concept of God or the dual nature of Jesus. When somebody first broached the idea that said, God is one, this is true, but he's also three. And you don't qualify the one and the three. You just simply say, well, that makes no sense. You have to do better than that. Or if I say Jesus is both God and man, like he's fully God and fully man, well, then we have to define our terms. What is it to be man? What is it to be God? And is there a contradiction in there? So when we're defining our terms, the law of contradiction is always in place. If I am saying that I have one hat on, I'm saying far more about what I'm not wearing. I'm not wearing a tree. I'm not wearing drywall. I'm not wearing carpeting. I'm wearing one hat. I'm not wearing an Easter bonnet. I'm not wearing multiple hats. So this must be addressed here in the realm of theological or religious thought, spiritual thought, that there's a difference between mystery and contradiction. Okay? Mystery is like we don't understand something fully. So if I don't understand something fully, I can say I believe a given thing. Like I believe that one example is like I believe that the grass grows. I don't know how it grows exactly, but I believe it grows. Okay? There's a mystery to me about how that works or how electricity works. Like there's a mysteriousness about it, which is to say I don't comprehend it fully. Contradiction is a different thing. To say the grass grows and the grass doesn't grow, is absent any qualification, is a contradiction. So one or the other is true, but not both. In theological thought, in religious thought, the same principles apply of reason. You don't have to understand something fully, but you can't assert a contradiction and expect it to be believed. But some have argued God could do anything. He could do anything, he could be anything that he pleases. It's beyond our comprehension, and it's arrogant to think that he couldn't be three in one and then da 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 da. And I say, fine, I can go along with that line of reasoning. It is arrogant to say like God is limited to my conception of what he is capable of doing. But if anyone's going to say God can do anything, and this is exactly what he's doing, then you've contradicted yourself. You're saying, I don't know all of this, but I do know all of this. Because if God can be three in one, he can also be one in one, so to speak, according to our common conception. So if you're going to take, or anyone's going to take anything out of the realm of common sense, of our common shared human experience, then there needs to be a better basis for it than that which appears in Trinitarian thought. But no matter what the realm is, so to speak, or the subject matter is, there still needs to be a rational basis for removing it from the realm of common experience. So when I see one person walking down the road, that's one person. If I see a group of people, I say that's a group of people. So to remove things from the realm of common sense is something that has happened in religion because it's sort of ethereal. It's up there. God is all up there in all these places. We can't understand them. And there's sort of a fondness for that mystery that has pervaded probably all religions in various ways. And it might be why there are so many religions. But the mere assertion that God can be anything because we don't know everything about him is a very different claim than saying he can be anything because we don't know everything, but he is three in one. I know that is true. It's like, well, that's a contradiction in terms, in argumentation, and ideas. So faith has been used, the concept of faith has been bastardized over the millennia. Maybe people have always done it. I don't know. But to me, faith is an exercise of the understanding. Faith, if you look at it etymologically, has the similar root as confidence or trust. They're similar words. So if you're going to have confidence in something, it isn't enough, or you have trust in something, it isn't enough to say, it could be anything, therefore I have complete confidence in it. That isn't what confidence or trust or faith is. And we'll see biblically, as I alluded to in the beginning, but in the Bible, for example, on the use of reason, Proverbs 16:22 supports the idea that reason is important. And it says, understanding is a wellspring of life to them that have it, but the instruction of fools is folly. Right? So understanding, what is understanding? It's an exercise of the reason. Pretty commonsensical, right? And common sense and reason and logic is what we employ commonly to reject things that are just patently absurd, right? It's the mechanism, if you want to call it that, by which we're able to comprehend things or even make assertions or have faith that there is God or a God or order in the world on any level. But on the Trinitarian scheme, faith, it has been argued over the centuries, and I'll just read one quote going back to the 1600s, time of the Reformation, that faith has been a means to overthrow reason and understanding. Like when your mind says, oh no, that doesn't make any sense to me, faith has been used to say, oh no, you need to have more faith in this particular thing. And that's a butchering, bastardization of what faith truly is. Faith is an exercise of the understanding. But I'm going to read a quote here. Sir Thomas Browne said in his 1643 work, and it was a very popular work back in that time. It's the equivalent of a bestseller today, and it gained him fame and all this stuff. But the work was Religio Medici. If you want to say it in Italian, it might be Religio Medici. But he said this in his work: methinks there be not impossibilities in religion enough for an active faith. The deepest mysteries ours contains have not only been illustrated, but maintained by syllogism and the rule of reason. Now mind you, he's a Trinitarian. You'll see this. I love to lose myself in a mystery, to pursue my reason to an O altitudo. 'Tis my solitary recreation to pose my apprehension with those involved enigmas and riddles of the Trinity, incarnation and resurrection. I can answer all the objections of Satan and my rebellious reason with that odd resolution I learned of Tertullian. It is certain because impossible. I desire to exercise my faith in the difficultest point. For to credit ordinary and visible objects is not faith, but persuasion. This, I think, is no vulgar part of faith, to believe a thing not only above, but contrary to reason and against the arguments of our proper senses. End quote. And there it is in a nutshell. That's the decision that anyone is making who decides on a mysterious or a contradictory faith. If you say, I'm going to use reason to overthrow my reason, then you've contradicted yourself. You really need to have a better basis. We need to. It's, in my estimation, obviously, it's a far better way to go about things, to be consistent in how we think about things, how we use our minds, rather than saying, well, in this really important realm of life, faith and God, I'm going to employ a mechanism with which I'm completely unfamiliar. The reason that I use to get by in life, I'm not going to use that anymore. That's how I'm going to make complete sense of God. It's like, well, that's a broken mechanism, if you will. It's not even a mechanism. It's just a sort of a fantastical way to think about God. But to wrap this up, I'll just read a couple of more verses that say very succinctly on the use of reason, on the use of understanding in the Bible. I'll just read 3 verses. There are many of them. You could find them. But Isaiah 1:18 says, come now, let us reason together, said the Lord. In John 4:22, you worship you know not what, but we know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. You worship you know not what. He was talking to the men of Athens at that time. Proverbs 4:7. Proverbs is replete with examples like this. But do not forsake wisdom, and she will protect you. Love her, and she will watch over you. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. And with all thy getting, get understanding. And that doesn't involve mystery. That doesn't involve flights of fancy into some unusual realm. It is an active mental exertion to understand thoughts, how they connect to one another, so you can have a basis for what you believe. It's hard enough to make sense of things in this world that we can see and all this, that to sort of jettison what we've accumulated mentally and our connections that we make, and then like just get rid of them to make these claims about God is just not, in my estimation, the safest or best or most prudent or reasonable way to go about it. So that was what I wanted to say about some of the differences between mysteriousness and contradiction that might get you thinking about it on your own, so that when you're doing your spiritual searches and studying the Bible and just living life with your family and at work, that you could see how reason and a consistency would strengthen what you believe versus overthrow it. So there you go. That's it, guys. Leave your comments, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on another video. Have a great day and keep thinking theology.